Rockin' and rollin', Carol. It's a beautiful spring day. Unusually, I'm not in the Friendship Club studios in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I'm in Los Angeles, and wanted to take advantage of my being within grabbing distance of a favorite guest or two to bring you in for a return visit to one of the most listened to episodes of this series, and it's to do with Debtors Anonymous, DA. And
the redheaded stepchild.
Yeah, everybody knows AA. Some know Al-Anon, even though that gets confused with AA. It's not hard to figure out Gamblers Anonymous or Cocaine Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous. But, okay, if somebody's got a huge problem with cocaine or tequila, they kind of know the score, and they finally pick up their cell phone and get a hold of a meeting. What's the typical profile of somebody that lands in your fellowship?
So there's a lot of different kinds of debting, and there's a lot of different ways people come crawling to us. So there really isn't a typical. I've kind of put people into two groups. This is not official literature approved language, but I call people Tiggers and Eeyores. So the Tiggers tend to be like I was, which is they go, I'm me. I don't need to read the fine print. I don't need to plan ahead. I don't need to get expert advice. I don't need to, have a budget. It's all going to be great because I'm me, right? And so then, they overdo, they overspend, they want to be cool, they want to look good. So for me, and I can only speak for me, I overworked, I overdid, my dreams were too big. I wasn't good at putting things down into steps. I wasn't good at, getting expert advice. I wasn't good at having contracts or, paying attention to the numbers. So that tends to be the Tiggers. So they take too big of loans. They run up their credit cards too high. Then there's the Eeyores, and the Eeyores tend to be completely opposite, right? They go, well, that'll never work because I'm me, right? So they're afraid to ask for what they're worth. They're afraid to ask for a raise. They're afraid to go for the job that's really what their spirit and soul wants to do, or even the job they trained for. They often, take work or opportunities below their intelligence, their skill set, their education level. And they have, for whatever reason, a need for safety and security. Tiggers have a need for excitement and adventure, right? Now they say, and I'm sure you're well aware, but for anyone who's new to the whole 12-step world, that any form of compulsive disease has one goal, and that goal is to not feel your feelings. It's a form of numbing out, right? Now, when it comes to some compulsive behaviors, we can all get behind the idea that for a while, they're fun, right? So screwing, fun, eating, fun.
Buying shiny, cool shit.
Yeah, buying shiny, cool shit. Totally fun. Work, if you're getting a lot of atta-girls or atta-boys, totally fun, right?
Yeah. Yes.
But once it's too much of anything, there's no way to feel your feelings. You're basically... you're just you're trying to outrun your problems with whatever your compulsive thing is. So Tiggers tend to be doing it that way, and Eeyores tend to be, just hiding, right? Playing it safe. They really need safety and security.
So that doesn't sound fun to me, but
it's not.
But knowing that you've got, I'll just make up a number, knowing that you've got $2,000 in the bank, you go, well, at least I got that. If I didn't work for a month, I could pay 1 month's mortgage and buy some ramen, and I'd be okay. Is it that kind of low level expectations? Is that what I'm grasping?
Well, but an Eeyore can have $2 billion in the bank and still be like, it won't work. Never mind. It's not really, and this is what's interesting, right? You can't always tell.
Oh, okay. Hang on.
By someone's
theoretically,
affairs.
or do you see people with objectively a shitload of money in Debtors Anonymous? Do you see that?
Not a lot, but it does happen. I wish people knew. I mean, first of all, I think we have a marketing problem. I went to one of the World Service conferences.
The Debtors Anonymous has a marketing problem.
Yes.
Okay, talk about that.
I went to one of the World Service conferences. I was at that level of service where people come from all over the world to represent the different meetings, and we get on committees and we talk about the goals for the fellowship and
right.
how can we guide and direct it. And I said, guys, we have a problem. I think we need to switch our name to the Happy Fun Money Club, right? Because I would tell people, as I would run into people in life who needed the recovery we have, which OG is pretty much on a daily basis. I run into people who are overdoing, stressed out, because we have a culture that glorifies, work and status and looking good and spending too much. Like, our culture is like completely run on that. And so we're all swimming in that. They say if you were to figure out the income of the characters we all love on television shows and in movies, they're all millionaires, right? Like the Friends in their apartment in New York, right? Yeah. They could have never afforded that. And to sit around all day at a coffee shop like they did. I mean, I'm dating myself now because that's an old TV show, but you know what I'm saying?
I do know, yeah.
So we're all swimming in this, like, this world.
We're sitting here, and this is kind of specific, but we're not too terribly far from Pasadena, California, where loads of commercials and exterior shots of houses are set. Now, if you didn't know any better, you might not know that these are $3 million homes that somebody who works at a bookstore part-time is owning, not renting.
And they do not have time to see their friends, let alone hang out all the time with their friends, because all they're doing is working. Exactly. So, oh my gosh, where were we? I lost the thread.
Well, we began with, I pulled you off your track. Who comes into DA? And you sort of said, well, here's two big categories.
Oh, you were talking about people with a lot of money. Okay, so
no.
So in my experience, people really in trouble, like really, really in trouble financially, who are, more struggling paycheck to paycheck. They know they need DA more than people who have money but are doing who are still really, really struggling with compulsive debting issues. They don't know they need DA. So what I'm so grateful to you for having me share in this way, both last time and this time, is that we really do need to reach people. Oh, so my joke about the conference is I said, guys, we have a marketing problem. We should be called the Happy Fun Money Club, because I would start to tell people about it. I would say, hey, I'm in this spiritual program. It's all about money and success, but creating, a peace of mind and serenity around work and vision for your life, and, and getting solvent and getting clear. And people are like, oh, that sounds amazing. What's it called? Oh my God. And then I say, and it's free, and there's the loveliest people, and there's so much support, and people take your calls at all hours and show up to help you. And they're like, oh my God, that's amazing. What is it? And then I say, Debtors Anonymous. And it's like, wow,
you're not kidding. This really happens.
And all the air goes out of the conversation because it sounds awful, just the name, right? And we have so much shame as a culture, because we're so told by every, movie, TV show, commercial, catalog, social media, we're all only posting photos of ourselves in our best clothes on vacation in front of our cool car that may not even be ours. And so we all think everybody's doing better than they are, right? And so we have a lot of
comparing.
shame.
It took me a long time to understand this. Comparing my insides to your outsides.
Right. And compare and despair. That's a saying I love, right? Right. So people just don't like it, right? They don't like the name. It makes them feel bad.
Mm-hmm.
And part of being a debtor is having a lot of shame, and it keeps people from getting help. Or they think, oh, but I have money in the bank. Oh, but I have savings. Oh, but I have. So it doesn't matter that I'm a year behind with the IRS. So like for me, someone told me about Debtors Anonymous. A client told me about it. Said it was one of the single best things he had ever done in his life. And this guy was incredible and was, doing ginormous tours. He was in charge of the tours of, household name pop stars and rock stars. And he's telling me how great it is. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, I had a little voice that said, oh, I need that. But then I had a louder voice that said, but I'm never late with my bills. And I'm responsible and I take care of whatever I need to. And I always work. I've always been employed. So therefore, I don't need it. But for me, being a Tigger, I never had enough savings. So like when the cat needed surgery or the car needed, a new transmission, it was always disproportionately a crisis, right? It was always a bigger deal than it should have been. One of the signs of debting is being surprised when, regular expected bills come due. Things like, oh, gee, tax time. And things like, hey, guess what? Every year your health insurance goes up. So why are you surprised that it happened again? Or every couple of years your rent goes up. So why are you so upset when it happens again? Debtors are like completely devastated. They're like, this is ruining my life. I can't handle this. This is going to be impossible. So that's a very common, I shouldn't say all debtors, but that's a very common thing. Because again, our number one symptom is we live in what's called terminal vagueness. We don't live in reality. So even things that we could easily put in a calendar, like, hey, every February, my life insurance is due every year, or every, November and February or March, my property taxes are due. So why is it every year I'm shocked and amazed when I get the bill? So that's a very common sign, is that vagueness, that like lack of awareness of your own affairs.
What up with credit cards?
What's even scarier these days, of course, is things like Apple Pay. Like you don't feel like you're spending money. You don't have actual physical money.
Do you know I actually do? I'm a Texan. And going back, I don't know where this started, but back when dollar bills were about yay big, I learned to always carry a $100 bill in my wallet. And so I almost always pay cash for groceries and that, out of pocket. And it's such a habit, and I don't do credit card debt. I have one in my pocket, a credit card, because I drive a 15-year-old truck, and some sunny day that transmission's going south, and I don't keep that kind of ready cash. My point being is my Texas habit of having a $100 bill in my wallet saved me a lot of credit card debt.
I mean, you don't sound like you are one of us, honestly.
Gotcha.
Because
right.
If for a lot of us, if we had a $100 bill on us at all times, you have that inner negotiator, right? That inner voice that's like, hey, but you have that $100 bill, and what if you buy that shiny thing you really want?
Oh,
with that, I mean, you'll just replace it. You'll just get another $100. You know what I mean? It's like friends will say to me, oh, but Carol, you've been in recovery for so long and you've been solvent for so long. If you got an American Express whatever card, you'd save so much on airlines, and you'd get to go to the lounge where they have free cappuccinos, right? And they start describing all these things I would really, really like, right?
Oh, that's hilarious.
Like,
that's like the people who buy a boat and they're like, yeah, that plate of fish cost me $60,000.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because I had to pay for the mechanic and the dry docking and the maintenance and the guy that drives the boat and I've been on one of those boats. Yeah.
Okay. I have a couple of, let's call them hobbies. And I long ago accepted hobbies cost money.
Oh, totally.
So if I'm going to spend, a couple $100 a month on parts for this gadget, that sort of thing. And I don't worry about it because I just go, just like I'm not going to cry every time a hamburger costs $20 because it's 2024 and a hamburger costs $20. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So that's not really a question, but is there a built-in expectation that, man, you're going to drop you got to have some fun in life, and you're going to spend a little money having some fun in life.
So I love that you say that too, because I think people are afraid to come because they think, oh no, they're going to put me on a budget and they're going to take away everything I love, right? So one of the things we do is we do what are called PRGs, pressure relief groups, where you ask a man and a woman in the program with solvency for at least 6 months to look over your affairs.
Defined how solvency?
Solvency means you are able to pay all your bills. you are not securing any more unsecured debt, and you are, it doesn't mean you're necessarily debt free, right? You might be still paying down. It took me 5 years in the program to pay down credit cards, catch up with the IRS, etc.
But you're on a path to.
But yeah. And so it's just people working the program no longer incurring unsecured debt. So unsecured debt is like any debt where there's no collateral to back it up.
Yes,
So
I understand.
it's like shoes in
So
a closet.
steak dinner's not.
Yeah.
If you buy an electric bike, at least you got something you could sell.
Exactly. Or a car.
In
or
the
a
old days, they
house.
call that guns and butter. Are you spending your money on guns? Or are you spending it on butter?
Right. So you have someone look over your affairs, and I've been a part of PRGs that have been so moving. Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry, because I don't know that.
It
term.
stands for Pressure Relief Group.
And tell me again. I know you just said it, but repeat it. What is it?
You keep your affairs. They recommend you wait 3 months. You have your affairs. You start writing your numbers. And to your point, hobbies. There's a place in your numbers book for hobbies. There's a whole page for hobbies where you write down every time you spend 1 cent on a hobby.
I gotcha.
Every time you spend 1 cent on transportation, that's on the transportation page.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you keep all of your numbers.
You started by talking about vagueness versus clarity.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's how we come out of vagueness, is we write everything down and we look at it and we total it every month. And every single time you spend 1 penny, you write it down by category, or you put it in a program, whatever app you use. These days, everybody does everything. And then you present all of that to a man and a woman in the group, and the 3 of you together look over your affairs. And there's always this incredible, like, they're going to tell me I can't go to restaurants, or they're going to tell me I can't get my hair done, or they're going to tell me I have to get rid of my dog. So I did one once for this really sweet woman, and she had 5 animals. And her earning was very inconsistent, and she was very kind of hand to mouth. And she was just sure we were going to say, get rid of all of your animals.
You mean dogs and cats, not
exactly.
emus. Okay.
Exactly.
Right.
She had like three cats and 2 dogs.
Sure.
And the 2 of us, it was the man she had chosen, who I didn't even know, we were both in total agreement that she should absolutely keep her animals.
Yeah, well, they picked the right friend in Carol.
And then, and we helped her see.
One hesitates to say crazy cat woman, but you love your cats.
Yeah.
How many cats have you had in the last 10 years? Give me a number. Give me the over-under.
Well, I rescued 47.
Okay.
But I got most of them home.
Yeah.
And I've had, I think, 12
Okay.
in 20 years.
As roommates? Okay.
Yes,
Gotcha.
exactly. So
you're not one to say, you can't have pets.
no, not at all. So she was so amazed. And, sometimes the advice is things like, hey, we see you're not having any fun. Or, hey, we see you're not socializing at all. Because that's a kind of debting where you're living in deprivation. Debting so often brings with it a kind of deprivation. Like the consequence of debting is often deprivation.
I'm going to tell you a story about my mom, and I'll try to hold it down to 60 seconds. I grew up with a dryer that didn't quite work right, a clothes dryer. If the door on this thing was shut, it was running. So you had to put a sock in to wedge it open if you wanted it to stop running. Therefore, you couldn't leave for 8 hours at a time, or you'd come back to barbecued socks. And my surmise, she was a Depression era housewife. We could afford a dryer.
Aww.
We weren't rich. We were middle class, but we could afford a dryer.
Kind of like this too. Yeah.
And so, but her life became smaller because of, it was like having a sickly pet or something. It was a goddamn dryer.
And you couldn't leave the house. Somebody had to always be home.
Here's what I think. She must have gotten a bid for it once upon a time for, it's going to cost you $200 to fix that switch. And so she just mentally said, can't do it. Gotta just be home when it's time to we can. What is that? Where you find yourself making an unreasonable accommodation in your life because you're scared of spending $200.
Well, I mean, that's one of the signs, right? Where you won't spend perfectly reasonable money, even if you have it on something. There's a part of you that's in deprivation. I remember one meeting, a woman was saying, I'll draw a bath, I'll get in the bath, I'll be loving the bath, but I feel immediately guilty. Like I shouldn't be in the bath. And where does that come from, right? So many of our weird things that we have, we don't even know where they come from. They're subconscious, they're old.
Great.
One of the versions of debting is time debting. Always being late everywhere, always being in chaos about appointments and about, getting somewhere in time. And And we did a workshop on it one time, and oh my God, the reasons people gave, and people in your life will say, you're late, you don't respect my time. You care more about yourself than other people, right? These are the assumptions. These are the stories we tell ourselves. But the stories they told us in the workshop were things like, when I was a kid, I would wait for my mom to pick me up from school, and she was often very late, and I would get bullied, or one time I was molested, or, so I can't be early anywhere, because if I'm the first one there, I'm not safe, or I'm going to be, vulnerable in some way. So all these things are often very, very old, and we don't even necessarily remember them, but they are informing our behaviors today. Whether it's, can you enjoy yourself? Can you live comfortably? I remember, someone who shall not be named in the news, who's got a ton of money, or supposedly has a ton of money, said when he's not in debt, when he actually has money, he can't sleep. Like, he's a nervous wreck. So he's more comfortable carrying debt than being solvent. So all this stuff is just, who knows where it comes from. But the thing I want the listeners to really get is, if they're relating to any of this, or if they're thinking of someone they know with any of this, it's baffling, cunning, and powerful, right? It's not logical. It's not something you can just decide to get over if you're really compulsive with this. It's not
knock that shit off.
Yeah, it's not like if you just got smarter, if you just thought more clearly, if you just, I shared on our last episode, I thought, well, I'll just read books on money. I'll just read books on success. That's the thing that'll fix me. And it didn't, because it didn't address that underlying, compulsive piece that needed addressing through support and service and love of the fellowship and tools and awareness and, just changing day in, day out habits, right? So, and we can't do it alone. And that's, one of my favorite things about back to pressure relief groups, right? Is what I love in DA is you're never alone. And it's not just a sponsor or the fellowship even. It's, you have your pressure relief group team, and you have your sponsor, and you can have a lot of people get an action buddy where, you have goals for the week and you check in, because we need somebody to help us stay accountable and stay awake. So, yeah, so it's cool and it works. It's like magic.
It seems complicated because I'm prone to addiction.
Uh-huh.
And so I know I need to stay away from the white stuff and the green stuff and the brown liquid and the clear liquid. Now, I haven't had any of that shit in decades, and I still attend a lot of recovery meetings. And the old saying there is, "Come for the drinking, stay for the thinking."
Oh, I love
so
that.
it does slop over into marriage stuff, parental stuff, job stuff, food. There's a million things you can mess your life up with if you have an addictive core,
sure,
kind of thing. So someone who has never been drunk or wanted to be, or has ever done an illegal drug or a recently legalized drug and doesn't want to, they might not qualify for certain 12-step programs, but there's probably a big Venn diagram of all these other issues. You just said time debting. That's not something I would have known you identified and worked on.
I actually thought one of the things I could share today is some of the interesting signs of a debtor that people don't consider debting, right? We think of credit cards, we think of being in arrears or being late with the rent or late with the mortgage.
Is it true that 90% of Americans are in debt? Do you know if that's true?
Oh my gosh, I'm sure. I wouldn't doubt, but again, it's not all unsecured debt. So.
No, I don't mean a house mortgage.
Sure.
I mean, $30,000 of a big nothing burger that they owe to Zavisa, nothing to show for it.
I don't know, but I know they do say a giant percentage of us can't come up with $1,000 in an emergency, like a very high percent, something like half.
Boy,
of Americans.
and in this day and age, $1,000, what is that? that line I said from Color of Money. You go into a shoe store with $300, you come out with one shoe. So
right.
you need a little cushion.
I know. Yeah, I grew up in a town where now underprivileged, lower income housing, you can qualify up to $125K. If you make up to $125K, you qualify for low-income housing in the town I grew up in. Yeah. So it's gotten crazy.
The town you grew up in is a little bit expensive. I'm not trying to start no chit, but it's the Bay Area of San Francisco, and I think everybody knows that it's, a house, a 200-foot mini house is $1 million or something.
Yeah, it's crazy. But some of the signs of being a debtor are not opening our mail.
Remember those days?
Really
I remember paper bills, and they changed colors. The bill would be black, and then a month later it'd be green, a month later it'd be red, and you best open that.
Yeah. And then cluttering. That's one of the signs. Debtors often just don't take the time to be organized. Living in chaos. Time debting, like I said, overdoing. And like I said, being disorganized. So one of the things we do for each other.
I'll hit the pause button with cluttering.
Yeah.
What do you make of that? That's a common behavior of somebody who's a 14-carat member of Debtors Anonymous.
Well, I think for a lot of us, you're so busy when you're really in your disease. You're so busy lurching from thing to thing, job to job, overworking, overdoing. It's like, who has time to deal with the pile of stuff over here, right? And so what's weird is as you work the program, I call it as you plug into the mothership, right? These behaviors just kind of lift off of you and kind of, even if you don't consciously go, I'm going to stop cluttering, suddenly you're cleaning out the garage. And I don't know why that happens. It's kind of magical. And I didn't even know cluttering was a symptom. And I was going to meetings for a little while. And all of a sudden I was noticing clutter, and I was cleaning out my bedroom and my drawers and my closets. And then one of my friends in DA said, oh yeah, that's one of the signs of recovery. And I was like,
now,
what?
It occurs to me at 10 o'clock at night that there's a wet swimsuit in the trunk of my car. I'm probably going to go get it. So I wouldn't call myself an intense neat freak. I'm not, but I don't like clutter, and it seems like I really don't like clutter, and I'm an addict. So in recovery. And so I wonder if that's not somehow in there.
I don't know. Are you a Virgo? Maybe you're a Virgo.
I had a girlfriend in college. So, we do 30-minute episodes, and your episode is like in the top 3 or 4 downloaded. And I have a feeling.
Amazing.
Yeah. And it's all over the world, Carol.
Amazing.
It's in 42 countries, and there aren't that many countries, and some of them are very large. We're in 42 countries, 600 cities.
Congratulations.
And thanks. And we're coming at it.
That sounds like Tigger behavior.
Recovery.
Just kidding.
To be honest, I didn't know what numbers to expect because I've got YouTube channels about other hobbies of mine.
Yes.
That have 6 figures of downloads. That's not the way podcasts work.
Yes.
So I'm delighted. I love driveway moments in the radio where you can't get out of your car because you've been listening to this story and you can't give it up, and you've become that for people who drive on the other side of the road or live at the bottom of the world or the top of the world. I can promise you're in so many locations. You know what? I'll pull those numbers.
Well, I would like to think it's the topic is speaking to people, right? Because as I said, it's been such a gift in my own life, this program, and the people that I know that, are in the program, they feel the same way. And my heart kind of breaks for how much suffering around these subjects there are and how little people know it's available. Like there's help available, and you're not blowing it. You're not an idiot. You're not selfish. You're not stupid. You're not, you don't have weak character. You just need help greater than yourself, right?
Did you read back when everybody read it, Bonfire of the Vanities, not the atrocious movie, but the excellent novel? Part of it is stream of consciousness, the stuff you can't put into a movie of what's going on in this guy's head. And he's a multimillionaire stock guy. And in his head, he's going, oh my God, I got 3 kids in private school. I got a maid there 5 days a week.
Yeah.
We got a boathouse that has two Chris Crafts in it. And he's doing this math in his head. And a guy like me who's got a used truck and a couple of guitars and, wear the same stuff all the time. I was reading this going, okay, I kind of get it.
Yeah, it's pressure.
Or
that guy's under pressure.
When I was a kid and he's still gigging, Wayne Newton declared bankruptcy. I'm like, the guy plays Las Vegas for $100,000 a night, 300 nights a year for 50 years. How do you spend that much dough?
Well, we saw it with Michael Jackson, right? And
That's right.
We saw it. I mean, we've seen it with Nicolas Cage. We've seen it. I mean, there's been a lot of very famous people, celebrities in total financial chaos because that's not.
So if one of your pigeons is doing pretty good, and after 6 months or a year comes to you and goes, I'm losing my frame of reference. Am I doing okay in recovery? What kind of things would you look at to say, yes, you are, and here's how I can tell?
Well, there's the inner experience and then the outer experience. So the inner experience is how's your serenity? How's your self-talk? How's your hope? How's your, there's stages of recovery.
Progress, not perfection.
Yeah. And then there's your outer experience. So the first stage is we come because usually we're really in trouble, right? Like we're really in trouble. So for me,
nobody comes in on a lucky streak.
Yeah, I was working as much as I possibly could. I was, I shared this last time. I had anxiety.
You mean you? This is really you.
Yeah. I was grinding my teeth. Some people have to sell their homes. Some people, they can't get a job. Like, it shows up in different ways. But when we come, it's usually bad, right? So that's the first stage is like putting out the fire.
Miserable enough to take action.
Yeah, so I call it the putting out the fire stage. And that might be like you're going to meetings and you're just taking steps to put out the fire. So it's not time to ask, what is my dream life and what's my perfect job? And, no. I'm
dying over here.
Yeah. So one of the things we say is, are you willing to earn? Are you willing to take a roommate? Are you willing to sell your house? Are you willing to what are you willing to do to right this situation?
Put out the biggest fires first.
Yeah. I'll say to people, what can you do to earn right now? What can you sell? What can you gun to your head?
Yeah. This is absolutely tracking. And then, but again, you've done it for a year. You've followed Carol's suggestions pretty well.
Yeah.
And come up with ones on your own.
Yeah.
How's my life looking, and how can I tell if I'm getting better?
Well, people that are actually taking the actions and surrendering to a sponsor and a PRG group and doing what they say and not going, no, I'm going to keep doing it my way because my way is awesome, right? They actually get a lot better. So they feel more serene. They feel more joy.
It works when you work it.
Yeah. Their debt is going down. They're communicating with their creditors. This is one of the other things we really emphasize is don't be afraid to call your credit cards and say, hey, I'm going to take longer. I'm going to be late, or I'm going to, or call the IRS and work out a plan, or work out an agreement where you pay not the whole amount, but less. And they've let you do that. Right. And so there's a lot of ways to tell that things are improving. A lot of the time, the next stage is like, okay, you can make it every month. It's not like white knuckling it. It's not like horrible. The next stage is, wow, you're actually really making progress. You actually, you're actually like, you can breathe. You're not riddled in shame. You're not full of anxiety. You're not lying to your friends and family. Like you're living an honest life. You're asking for help. You're being of service. You're showing up for others.
What it used to be.
Or can I just say, is now what's your vision? Like, what's the real job you want, or the career, the life, or like, what's the house you really want? But people want to go from stage 1 to stage 4, and you got to do all of them. So sorry
making a hell of a lot of sense. No, it's beautiful. I will mention that we had a gardener in the back because of the level of Cadillac problems you've got and trash cans out front. I had last year, for the first time in my life, I paid someone a professional service to come clean my garbage cans, the bins that we roll out on the street. I'm like,
that's when
I have arrived.
Isn't that awesome?
I felt like king shit. Thanks, Carol. I love you. We'll see you next time. Bye.